In Act 2, Scene 2, Macbeth basically has committed the deed. He has gone and killed Duncan. Now what's important is that we don't see Duncan's murder on stage. A lot of film versions will show it, and they'll show Macbeth going through and stabbing and killing Duncan, but that doesn't happen in the play. There's several reasons for that. Obviously the idea of killing a king would have been treason to a Jacobin society. They don't want to show that. That's one. But also you have to remember that as an audience, we want to know whether Macbeth has actually gone through with it or not. So in the subsequent scene to the dags who I'm just talking about, we have Lady Macbeth waiting to hear the news from her husband and getting very, very anxious and worried that he hasn't done it, that he's been caught, and therefore she's going to be caught. So we don't know what's happened, just like Lady Macbeth. So we share her tension and we wonder whether he has been caught or not, or whether he's actually killed the king. That's just a little thing that I just want to mention because that's quite a clever piece of structure that Shakespeare uses in Macbeth. And then in Act 2, Scene 2, Macbeth comes out to his wife and he says, yes, I've done it, he's dead, I've killed him. But he seems to have a lot of guilt and regret about what he's done. He says, methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep, the innocent sleep. So in this scene, Macbeth talks a lot about killing sleep. He uses the word murder now as well, which he didn't do before. So now that he's done the deed, he can use that word because he's gone through with it. But he talks about how he's killed sleep. He's not going to be able to sleep now because of the guilt and the regret that he feels about having killed his king. So he's done this deed now, but he is feeling the consequences of it. He talks about how will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? So will all the water in the world be able to get rid of the blood that's off my hands? And he says, no, this is my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. So he says, it doesn't matter how much water I use, my hands will always be covered in blood and they'll turn the seas red as well. So he is using hyperbole, he's using allusions to Roman mythology and Neptune, the god of the sea. He's really going over the top with his use of language just because of the sheer guilt that he feels for having killed his king. So he makes that really, really clear to his wife, and his wife is going, infirm of purpose, give me the daggers, you should have left them on the body. She's really frustrated at him because they could get caught and all he can think about is his guilt and his regret of having killed Duncan. So this is an important scene just because we see Macbeth really regrets what he's done now and he feels awful about it. But what's done is done. He can't go back. And then lastly, he hears a knocking and he says, wait, Duncan, with thy knocking, I would thou couldst. So he really wants to go back in the past and make what he's done be undone, but he knows he can't. In Act 3, Scene 1, Macbeth sees Banquo again, and he says that he's going to be having a party and he hopes that Banquo can come to it to celebrate the fact that Macbeth is going to become king. What I'm not really going to talk about, but really quick I'll just mention it. Malcolm and Donald Bain, Duncan's two sons, have run away. Malcolm's gone to England and Donald Bain has gone to Ireland because they feel that the murderer who's killed their father will be after them next because they're next in line to the throne. But by running away, it makes people very suspicious of them, thinking that they might have killed their own father so that they can get power. But those two characters run away, and by doing that, it means that Macbeth, who is a relative of Duncan's, is able to then ascend to the throne and become king. So that's just a little thing that you need to know about that I've just mentioned there. But in Act 3, Scene 1, Macbeth is becoming king and he says to Banquo, please come to this party. But again, we hear Macbeth's thoughts to himself, and he talks about how he feels very insecure having Banquo still alive, because when he spoke to the witches, although they told Macbeth many things about how he would become king, they also said to Banquo, you won't become king yourself, but you will be the father of a line of kings. So Banquo's children will become kings. And so Macbeth feels really concerned and worried about that, because does that mean then that his children won't become king? Does that mean that Banquo's children may kill him so that they can become kings as well? So he doesn't feel secure at all, and his next sort of decision is to basically go and kill Banquo and try and kill Fleance, his son, as well. And he says to himself, the witches hailed Banquo father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown. So So that's a really good image or metaphor that you could learn for your exam, this idea of a fruitless crown. So he will not be the father of line of kings, he will just be king himself. He talks about put a barren scepter. So all these, this semantic field associated with a barren or desert or lifeless. We've got fruitless, we've got barren, we've got thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. So he's basically saying, I am going to be king, but my children won't be kings, and Banquo's children will be. So what's the point in me having killed Duncan? I basically killed Duncan so Banquo's children can become kings. I've done Banquo a massive favour, and I'm the one who's going to get in all the trouble. So he's now desperate to kill Banquo and his son to make sure that Macbeth can stay king. But the problem here is that he saw it as his destiny to become king, yet the witches have told Macbeth and Banquo that the future is certain, Banquo's children will become king. So what does that mean for Macbeth? In Act 3, Scene 2, Macbeth is speaking to his wife and he says, "Oh, full of scorpions is my mind, dear wife. Thou knowest that Banquo and his son Fleance live." So he's talking to his wife and he suggests, my head is full of scorpions. Not literally, of course, but he's using the metaphor to say, look, I'm so troubled with the fact that Banquo and his son are still alive. I need to do something about it. So again, what a powerful image that is, that his mind is full of scorpions constantly attacking him within his head all the time. Now, there's a significant change in this scene, in Act 3, Scene 2, because Lady Macbeth was the one driving and pushing on Macbeth to kill Duncan. And here, Macbeth says to his wife, "Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed." So he's now saying to his wife, you don't need to know what I'm going to do, I will do it, and then once this happened, you can applaud it afterwards. So he's taken back control. He is in charge now, and he's not letting his wife do anything. She's been put to one side. So Macbeth is not being manipulated anymore. He's making these decisions for himself. But it does mean that Lady Macbeth is becoming isolated and ostracised and cut off from Macbeth. So there's been a significant change in their relationship. She was in control. She made him do this, but now she's unimportant. She has been disregarded by him and put to one side. Okay. In Act 3, Scene 4, previously to this, Macbeth has arranged with two murderers to go out and kill Banquo and his son. Macbeth is having his party and he meets the two murderers who basically tell him that we've killed Banquo, and Macbeth feels good about that, but Fleance managed to escape. And when Macbeth hears this, he says, "Then comes my fit again." He thought he was safe, he thought that he was going to become king and Banquo wouldn't do, but Fleance managed to escape. So he says, "I had else been perfect, whole as the marble, founded as the rock." So those metaphors associated with solidity, of strength. So marble and rock, really strong materials. That's what I would have been like if Fleance had been killed. However, because he hasn't been, this is what Macbeth says. He says, "But now I am cabined, cribbed, confined." So you look at that alliteration there, and that emphasises to the audience that Macbeth is feeling insecure and terrified now. What's going to happen to him? I'm cabined, I'm cribbed, I'm confined. Just listen to the sounds of those words and the use of alliteration there, really getting across the audience his sense of terror. Bound into saucy doubts and fears. Okay, so he's full of doubts, he's full of fears, and he's bound into them. They're wrapping themselves around him. He can't get away from them. So he feels trapped and he feels really, really in trouble now. So he knows that he's not safe anymore. So really, really effective use of language in this quote here. And then Act 3, Scene 4 is also what's called the banquet scene, where Macbeth is having his big party and he seems to be having a good time, and he's playing the humble host, as he says, and he mingles with society and he's playing that role of king. But unfortunately for him, as they're having this party, he sees the ghost of Banquo. So he knows that Banquo has been killed, and he sees Banquo's ghost appear before him. And he says to all the characters there, "Which of you have done this?" As if one of them has created this, knows about the fact that he's killed Banquo. But no one else can see Banquo's ghost, just Macbeth. So we know that Macbeth is either being haunted by an actual ghost, which is choosing just to make sure that only Macbeth can see him, or Macbeth's mind, just like the dagger, his sense of guilt is creating this ghost in front of him because he feels guilty having ordered the death and the murder of his best friend just for his own sense of ambition and his safety. So this is a really important scene, because if you're doing it on stage, do you show the ghost to the audience, or do you just have Macbeth seeing this ghost without the audience seeing anything? If you don't show the ghost to the audience, then you emphasise Macbeth's sense of madness and how isolated and alone he is, because you also can't see the ghost. But if you show the ghost to the audience, then you can see what Macbeth is seeing, you can see the horrors in front of him and understand how he feels with all the characters not being able to see the ghost around him. And he talks about, thou canst not say I did it, never shake thy gory locks at me. So Macbeth is hinting at the murder of Banquo and hinting at the murder of Duncan, completely unaware that everyone else in the court is watching him say all this. So people, if they had any suspicions about Macbeth, are now pretty certain that he has killed Duncan and potentially Banquo as well. And he says, and he seems to calm down and the ghost seems to disappear, but then the ghost comes back again and haunts him for a second time. And he says, avaunt and quit thy sight. Let the earth hide thee, thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with. So he's describing the ghost for us as well, and really get across how evil and supernatural and unearthly this ghost is to the audience and to the characters. But Macbeth is genuinely terrifying. So with this scene, you need to think, what was Shakespeare trying to get out of it? Was he trying to make Macbeth seem terrified? Would that have given the Jacobean audience a sense of justice because he's being haunted because he's killed his king and he's killed his best friend? Is that the right thing to do? Are you supposed to laugh at Macbeth? Are you supposed to find this funny? Is it Macbeth's own sense of guilt? Even though he's done evil things, does he have a good side to him? Does he really regret what he's done? Is this a manifestation of that? Or is it the witches torturing Macbeth? Is it them causing their chaos in society? Fair is foul and foul is fair. Twisting everything round, making all good things bad and bad things good. Are they just punishing Macbeth because they're evil and they enjoy it? It's sadistic. You can make your mind up about that. Or maybe it's all of them together, but you can interpret it how you want it. But it is important to bear in mind that as a director, how would you perform this scene? Because it is so important in so many of the themes of the play. Okay, after the banquet and the fact that he's seen the ghost, Macbeth wonders what he's going to do, where he's going to turn to next. He's killed his best friend, he's killed his king. Most of Scotland now suspect Macbeth probably killed Duncan and Banquo too, because what he said during the banquet. So what does he do next? He talks to his wife briefly, but he makes the decision that he's going to go and revisit the witches and see if he can find out more about his future. So if the audience had any sympathy for Macbeth, in the Jacobean period, they're very likely to lose that sympathy because he decides to go back to the witches and hear more from them. So he's being associated more and more with evil. And when he goes to see the witches, he sees apparitions or visions, which they create in association with Hecate, who's the goddess of witchcraft. And the apparitions he sees, we know they say that no man of woman born can harm Macbeth, so no one who was born of a woman can hurt him. So he assumes that means everyone, because everyone's born from woman, so he's invincible. And they say to him, beware Macduff, beware the Thane of Fife. So he makes plans to attack Macduff. But they also say to him as well, he says, he pushes them further. He wants to know what's going to happen in terms of the future, in terms of kings and Banquo's children as well. And he sees his vision of a long line of kings, which starts with Banquo and just keeps going onwards and onwards. And Macbeth says, what? Will the line stretch out to the crack of doom? So this is suggesting that the line of kings is going to go on forever. Now, this is just a little bit of context. King James, who was Shakespeare's king when Shakespeare wrote and performed this play, he believed that he was related to Banquo, We now know that that's not true, but that's what King James believed. So it's really important that Shakespeare makes Banquo look like a good person and makes Banquo look like a hero. So he's suggesting here that the line of kings from Banquo will go on forever and ever and ever, which implies that King James's line of kings will also go on forever and ever and ever. So this is Shakespeare paying homage to King James, sucking up to him basically, making himself look good to King James. But that's an important piece of context. He's basically trying to win James's favour with this piece of information here.